All right, so today I'm going to be talking about the King George and Queen Elizabeth Stakes run this weekend at Ascot, a mile and a half. Good to firm ground, hopefully. It's looking like dry summer, UK summer weather. And this year it's really interesting because there's been a massive increase in prize money. It's over £300,000 more to the winner. So that's attracted a really elite field of horses. And you've got some horses from Japan as well who, they're interrupting their Japan Cup preparations to come here to a race like this, because this is like Japan's off time in their racing calendar. So we've got Masquerade Ball and Württemberg, who are throwing their hats in the mix against some top horses like Calandagan, Benvenuto Cellini, Mini Hawk, and it's just one of my favourite races. This race, like I remember 2 years ago when Goliath won, that was like one of my longest price winners. So it's a race that I hold close to my heart, the King George. And it's an amazing field. I'm going to talk about each of these runners. And at the end, I'll give you my prediction of what's going to happen and who's going to win. But we'll start off with the favourite, Calandagan. Francis Henri Graffard, Mikel Barcelona. This horse has done pretty much everything you can do over a mile and a half, except win a Breeders' Cup turf and a Hong Kong Vase, maybe. He's won a King George. He won it last year. He won the Japan Cup, being one of the first horse in 20 odd years out of Europe to win the race. He won the Shema Classic this year, although it wasn't a very strong field, but he still won the race after 4 months off. He's won a Champions Stakes. He came second to City of Troy in a Juddmonte as a 3-year-old. He's one of the elite horses of our time, Calandagan. Now he won the Grand Prix de Saint-Cloud last start. He won pretty well. And I kind of gave off the vibe that he's back into he's back after that atrocious run at Epsom on that awful ground where, he came fourth and Bay City Roller won by 20 lengths, which wouldn't happen in any other dimension. But, there's obviously you can just put a pen through that performance and then goes and wins the Grand Prix de Saint-Cloud after being like a mile back. Now there's an argument that he's not the same horse that he once was. He might be doing things a little bit more difficult. But at the same time, you can count on there's been very few times where he's done it like a real champion horse. He always does it the hard way. He's very workmanlike, Calandagan. So I'm not sure that I subscribe to that he's on a decline. I think Epsom was not ideal for him. He won the Shema Classic after 4 months off. And there were some okay horses in that field, not as good as it could have been, but he still won the race. And then he won last start after being a mile back, showing his ferocious turn of foot to win the race. So I think if they run a strong tempo here, it's going to set up the race perfectly for him. But even if it's run like last year where, we saw Continuous, who was the obvious pace in the race, he went to the front but really put the handbrake on. If we see that again, I still think he's a classy enough horse to overcome it like he did last year. Mikel Barcelona just got moving a bit earlier and Kalpana took him into the race as well. So, I think if there is a bit of a slow pace on, I still think Calandagan can overcome it. But it will be a lot harder this year because you've got a horse like Benvenuto Cellini in the race. Now, he won that race at Chester on debut as a 3-year-old. And then obviously that whole thing happened at Epsom where he kicked the barriers on the way out and he became a non-runner. But let's not ignore the fact that it was a heavy track and he just nothing. It wouldn't have ran anywhere even if the barrier thing didn't happen. So yeah, so just similar to it, we can just put a pen through Epsom like we did with Calandagan. But then he goes out, wins an Irish Derby, beats a stablemate Christmas Day, beats some other good horses in that race like Rahib, James J. Braddock, who obviously didn't really fire in that race, but we could see Ryan Wall make a real solid mid-race move in that race to get him more prominent because it was a long way back. And I think he's really good, Benvenuto Cellini, but I can't. He's not near the level of Calandagan, I don't think. I haven't seen anything so far from this horse to suggest that he is. I think he's pretty nice. I don't know. I think the King George the King George is too hard of a race for Benvenuto. That's my opinion. And Aidan O'Brien hasn't won this race in 25 years as well. So it's a bit of a cursed race for Ballydoyle. And we've seen in the past where they send a 3-year-old here who's really firing and they just self-destruct, like August Rodin. That's probably one of my main examples of that. And Benvenuto Cellini reminds me a lot of August Rodin, the way he carries himself, the way he like runs, that sort of thing. So I could see Benvenuto just like giving up, I'd say. But I don't know. He does seem like a really like sort of like workman-like. I've used that word a lot in this video, but I still think he might just come like second or something. But I just can't have him on the same level as Calandagan. Like I will rank Calandagan above Benvenuto for this race. I'll move on to Masquerade Ball. Now, he's such an interesting horse. Really elite Japanese horse. Now, he came second to Calandagan as a 3-year-old, beat by a nose in the Japan Cup. Prior to that, I think he won the Tenno Show, which is a 2,000 metre Group 1. And then he was last seen running second behind, I think it was Romantic Warrior, in the QE2 Cup at Chartin. And it was quite an average ride because they went really slow. And Christophe Petrus-Lemaire just was a bit of a passenger. He sat back. And obviously, once, Romantic Warrior, J-Mac, once the pace quickened, they were never going to catch him in a million years. So, although I think he is more of a 1.5 mile horse, that wasn't the best ride by Christophe Lemaire. But he comes here, he will get his absolutely ideal conditions. 1.5 miles, good to firm ground. It'll be a little bit like Tokyo, but obviously Ascot has a few hills in it, so not quite like Tokyo. But I think he's a really good horse. I think there's a very real chance that we see a rematch between him and Calandagan. These two like hit the front down the straight. They're going head and head, and maybe Calandagan wins, maybe Masquerade Ball wins. But we haven't seen a Japanese horse win this race, so history is against these Japanese horses. Although I do love the fact that it's going to be good to firm, and if there's a bit of pace on it, it's going to really the best stay is going to rise here, I think. Kalpana, she's a bit of a sweetheart. She's one of the sweethearts of UK racing, I think. She's won the the Champions Day Fillies and Mares Stakes 2 years in a row, which is course and distance, 1.5 mile Ascot. So, this is her real bread and butter. She came second in the King George last year behind Calandagan, which is a really elite bit of form. She really put Calandagan to the sword in this race last year. So I think she could be one of the a bit of a dark horse here, although she's not like one of these like top 3 in the market who've won like massive races like in their careers. I think she's a bit underrated, Kalpana. I think she loves Ascot. She loves 1.5 miles at Ascot. I actually thought she should have won the Arc last year. She was my pick for the Arc, but a lot of things went wrong. She had that thing go wrong with her like headpiece, I think, and yeah, she just had a really like average run, like running around the outside. That's kind of besides the point, but I think this race should really suit her. It's just at the end of the day, it just comes down to like whether she's as good as a horse like Masquerade Ball, which I don't think she is. Although I wouldn't like disagree with you if you were on Team Kalpana for this race. I think she's very good. And as I've said a lot, like this race just really suits her running style, the horse she is. So I think Kalpana's a good horse, but I think she's a rung below Calandagan and Masquerade Ball. Now, Mini Hawk's really interesting. Like, I don't know if she's going here because she's pretty highly favoured for the Yorkshire Oaks in 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm not too sure if they want to run in both, but she is one of the best horses in that yard at the moment. She ran second in the Arc last year as a 3-year-old, ran 6th in the Breeders' Cup Turf where she had a terrible run and she comes to the end of a really long season. And then she comes back as a 4-year-old, wins her first race. Obviously, something was wrong with her in the Tattersalls Gold Cup. There was a massive drift on her before the off and, didn't run very well. And then last start runs extremely gallantly behind Ombudsman in the Prince of Wales. I thought it was a really, really good run. It showed that, she's back to her normal self. And now she comes back here to 1.5 miles for the first time this prep. If Ryan Moore was riding Mini Hawk, I'd be all over her, to be honest. I think 1.5 miles is her trip. She's a, triple Oaks winner, the Yorkshire Oaks, and then the obviously English and Irish Oaks. But I think 1.5 miles is, back to her best distance. I think I was always of the opinion that 2,000 metres is a bit sharp for her. And I think that might have been the case in the Tattersalls Gold Cup. If Ryan was riding her, I'd be so much more happy with this race. But obviously, Benvenuto is the exciting stallion prospect. So, they've got to, prioritize those horses for marketing purposes. But I just love Minnie. I just remember I was at the Arc last year and her and Darius locked horns down that straight in the pissing rain. And it didn't rain at all during the day except during that race. So that was pretty weird. But I love Minnie, but if Wayne Lawton it's probably going to be him riding it, or, Ronan Whelan or something. No, it'd be probably Wayne if Ryan rides Benvenuto. I actually hope they just don't run it here. I hope they just go to the Yorkshire Oaks and, so she's like the main priority for the race, because obviously Benvenuto is the main priority here. And I don't really want Minnie Hawk to be an afterthought. I think she's far more than an afterthought in a race like this. So we'll move on to Goliath. Now, he won the race 2 years ago at a massive price. This was after a really eye-catching second place in the Hardwick Stakes, where he was pulling. And some of us thought that if the pace is on in a race like this, he's going to be really effective. And he ended up winning that race very easily. And now last year was a bit of a weird preparation for him. Obviously, Resolute Racing became part owners of him. And I think that really encouraged them to go to these international races that didn't really suit him. I remember he ran in the Curie 2 Cup at Sha Tin last year, which was 2,000 metres first up, and he's not a 2,000 metre horse at all. He's a 1.5 mile horse through and through. And now it looks like they've gotten him back. He obviously maybe should have won the Hardwick last start, but Christophe Soumillon lost his irons in the last 100 metres, so that was pretty unfortunate. And then before that, I think he won that race in France, and then I think he came second in Qatar or something. So, he's going really well as a 6-year-old, but I don't know, I'd rather be on a horse like Calandagan or Masquerade Ball, to be honest. I think he's really good, and obviously Ascot is a really good track for him, and he could surprise. But I don't know, there's some of these younger horses who are really peaking in their careers at the moment, and I'm not sure if Goliath is. He ran really well last start, but that's the level he should be running at. I think he threw up a few stinkers as a 5-year-old last year, so it's good to see him back at this level. But I don't think he's good enough to win a King George as a 6-year-old. That's my take on him. Although I do love the horse, I love that string halt thing he does. It makes it really shows his character as a horse. So hopefully he runs a big race. I'm not too sure if Bay City Roll is going here, because obviously won the Coronation Cup last start. He needs a minimum soft track, doesn't he? So I think this will be probably the ground will be too hard. And it's a really hard race, this. So they'll probably want to protect him a little bit. Obviously, he won that Coronation Cup so well. You don't want to go and break him the start after. So they might go for a German Group 1 or something in France. I'm not too sure. And then Württemberg, who is the other Japanese horse. Now, he's nowhere near the level of Masquerade Ball, but he gets the Shane Murphy books, which is always a positive. He's a bit of an older horse, and his recent form is over some extended staying trips, 2 miles. I think 2 starts back he ran over 3,400 metres, so he's obviously better over proper long distances. I'm kind of surprised they're going here, to be honest. I think it might be because of the prize money, and it is a decent prep run for their Japanese campaign. Obviously, things will start to ramp up a little bit over the next few months back in Japan, so this might just be a little blowing out of the cobwebs, as we saw with Danon Desile in the Juddmonte last year. And who was that horse that ended up being really good? I think it was called it was 2 years ago in the Juddmonte. It was, you know what I'm talking about. It ran against City of Troy. It was in the green colours. Christophe Lemaire rode it. I can't remember its name, but these horses sometimes come out here for a little prep run before the Japanese campaign. With Masquerade Ball, I think it's a little bit deeper. I think they're coming here to win this race. But with Württemberg, I think it's, what I mentioned before. I think it's, a little blowing out of the cobwebs, a little trip to Europe, a nice day out for the owners. But yeah, no, it should be, I think it's really exciting to have an international field of runners for this race this year, obviously with the 2 from Japan. And then the last 2 on the page, Lambourne at Action. I think just one of them will go here. Lambourne's a dual derby winner, so I'll be a bit cut if they relegate him to pacemaker, but, I don't know if he'll run here. I think Action should be the pacemaker because he always goes forward in his races. And I'd say they're going to want pace on here for Benvenuto Cellini. Obviously, he thrived in the Irish Derby last start when they went really hard up front. And, the cream rose to the top in that race. But yeah, I think I'd say Action will get Ronan Whelan or someone like that on board, and they'll just, head straight to the front. Although, we've seen them really cook this race in previous years, trying to control the pace. Obviously, it was too slow for Jan Bruegel, who was never going to be able to sprint with them in the King George last year. And then the year before, they obviously went really hard up front. I think Sean Levy got criticised a bit because he was going so hard on, I think it was Hans Anderson or one of those horses. He was just going too fast, and August Roden. No, sorry, who's the horse in that race for Aidan O'Brien? I forget who it was. Actually, no, I think it was August Roden, but it was him as a 4-year-old. But they just went way too hard, and obviously Goliath won. But this is such an interesting race, and I think Calandagan's going to win. Calandagan's my official tip for the race. He's one of the top dogs, and for me, I haven't seen anything to suggest that he's regressed as a horse. He's a 5-year-old. If anything, he should be in like the shape of his life for this. He's going to come here hard on the bit. Won a Group 1 last start at Songclude. Good to firm ground. It's going to take a serious horse to beat Calandagan around 2,400 metres at Ascot, is my opinion. And I'm not sure there's any other really amazing, Masquerade Ball is the only competition, I think. I think Kalpana's a rung below. I think Benvenuto has too many asterisks around his name. I think Goliath is pretty good. Same with Mini Hawk, but I think it's going to be a duel between Masquerade Ball and Calandagan. It's going to be a rematch of the Japan Cup, I think. But I think Calandagan's going to sun him again. That's what I think. But no, it should be good racing in England this week. And obviously there's a few group races and listed races around the King George. And there's I think the York Stakes is on the Group 2 at York, featuring Royal Champion. There's a few others in there. I think Item is the favourite. But yeah, if you like this sort of content, like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you later.